When it comes to some of the things that Gojo has said, I have been one of the biggest advocates for saying that this dude lies all the time. He says a bunch of stuff where it's like, dude, just stop it. And the most biggest one that I've always highlighted about Gojo is the one where he tells certain characters that one day you can be just as strong as me and we'll be on the same level. And I'm always like, Gojo, you're like the honored one, you're the chosen of the chosen one. What are you talking about? And the thing about this is that I used to always think to myself, this dude just keeps on lying for no reason. Is he just bored? Until I started to think more about that statement and who Gojo is in his life. And I started to realize that that wasn't necessarily the point of the statement. That statement is more of an invitation to solve a character's loneliness, a person who is perceived as one of the most powerful individuals within his verse, or, well, specifically in the Jujutsu Kaisen society. He was lonely, and he was looking for someone who could get to his level.
Because I'm still waiting for you to click that like button, and the subscribe, and the post notification button.
Because if you think about it, Gojo seems to be one of the most chill, down-to-earth dudes you'll ever see in the anime. But that doesn't make sense given his upbringing, because if we think about his upbringing, this was the chosen of the chosen one. We saw really early in the anime that literally as a kid, he was escorted and treated specially, he's the one for his clan. He's not normal. And if you kind of think about it, he was probably safeguarded and he probably didn't have that many friends, which is understandable because you don't want people finding him and unaliving him, which is something they kept on trying to do. But this is one of the things that facilitates his loneliness, because no one can just be around him. He's sheltered to another level. People just look at him from afar. Eventually what happens is that Gojo is able to eventually gain a level of freedom because he's a bit older, but he's able to strike a deal within his clan where it's you get the status, you get everything that's associated with basically knowing me and having me, but I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do. I can leave and go do whatever I want. Cool, they do it. And as such, what we see is Gojo just kind of as a kid, he's just moving around, walking wherever he wants to. But as we noticed, he was still the target of assassination attempts, and also he still seemed like he had no one around him. Because logically thinking and just speaking, think about it. Status-wise, who can hang around this type of kid? Also, status-wise, who can even match him, given his status of what he's perceived to his clan and what other clans see him? The chances and the odds of a kid being able to hang around him would probably be zero, and they probably wouldn't want two of those kids to hang around each other, so he didn't have that. Then in terms of power, who can match him at that point to be around him? No one. But also they're trying to assassinate him the whole time. Why would you even want anyone to be around that type of dude? And as such, he's still lonely, but he's walking around, he's trying to live his life, and he's trying to solve that loneliness that he had. And I think this is where he starts to begin an idea in his head about solving his loneliness. He understands that because of his power, he's gained a level of freedom. He's able to move around and kind of be relatively free. But also because of his status, he's him. He can do whatever he wants. But the problem is, who can get to his level where it's he can be around that person? Well, eventually that happens. He meets Gojo, a dude who perceived himself, and we see this within the story. They think they're kind of equal to each other in terms of power and status relatively, but not to the same status of Gojo, but still the power is enough where it's I can be around you, it's cool. And as such, in that moment, we realize that within Gojo's life, his loneliness is finally solved. He has people around him, but Gojo is the most important, because if you think about Gojo's life, he walks alone. He does a lot of things alone, but for once, he doesn't have to be alone. He has this dude who can go with him, because as we know, Gojo has other friends, but they can't go the same places he does. Gojo was the dude who could, solving the loneliness of his life. He goes into fights not alone anymore. He has this dude who's with him. For once, his life seems to be getting better, but then certain things happen, and fast forward, they start breaking up and etc, etc. But the most saddest thing about that is that the person who solved his loneliness in Gojo is the same person that Gojo will have to end. And in that moment, you can look at it as a symbolic moment where the person who ended Gojo's loneliness is the person that Gojo is going to end and ultimately result in his loneliness returning. After that moment, you see that there's some seeds in his mind, right? He understands that because last time he had someone who had the ability to be around him, that solved his loneliness. And as such begins the lying process. He believes that if he can find individuals who seem to have the potential to possibly be really strong, they can get to his level, and as such they can basically basically be around him. They can be his friends. He cannot be lonely anymore. He finds individuals who have the potential to potentially be on the same level as him. And that begins the whole story of him lying and picking certain individuals, saying that you're gonna be on my level one day, you're gonna be on my level one day. Because he sees that they're strong, yes, but the thing is also it's a plea, it's an invitation that has transformed into something a bit more. Because when people hear that Gojo says someone can get to his level, we think, oh my gosh, he's saying like he's really strong, which yes is true, but also he's also seeing this as an opportunity that one day you can enter his world and be around him, and as such solve the loneliness that he's been having throughout most of his life. He's looking for people, and as such he'll pick certain people that we're kind of questionable about, and when you think about it, you'll be like, Gojo, they're not as strong as you even in their prime. But really, for Gojo, it's just about entering the room. It's not necessarily about being as strong as him or even stronger than him, but just being able to be around him. Which then now brings us to the initial thing that I said at the beginning. Is he lying about people being on the same level as him or seeing people who could be on the same level as him? Yes and no. In terms of yes, well, technically speaking, he's a special grade, so you can be on Gojo's level on paper. But in terms of like using a sports reference, there's tables. I don't want to drown you with like sports takes, but you know like how they talk about the concept of tables. In sports, it's kind of like this thing where it's like, we can be champions, but we're not all the same champions. Like a dude who's won one championship is not on the same level as a dude who's won 6 or 5, like the Michael Jordan, the Tom Brady's. And as such, there's tables in terms of certain places. Yeah, we're all Hall of Famers or like champions, but there's levels to it. Gojo sits alone. But if you're a Hall of Famer, a person who can kind of be in the conversation, then you can possibly be around Gojo in a sense. That's kind of what it really means. You can be in the vicinity where Gojo can interact with you and hang with you and kind of solve his loneliness. So in a sense, yes, he is being right. You can get to his level on paper and maybe feel competently strong enough that you can be around Gojo and not worry about the threats that approach Gojo. But most probably if things happen, you might lose your life and he'll be okay. But also in terms of the no, technically you won't be. Because if we think about it, the person who tends to be connected a lot to Gojo in terms of the potential and the ability tends to be Yuta. I find this to be comical because he has a little bit of everything. You know, his ability allows him to copy, he's got Rika, he'll use cursed objects. He utilizes pretty much everything that can be utilized within the story, if he can. Those who know what he later does. He even tries to be someone and is someone, but that's another story. But essentially, even with all of that, there's still a debate as to whether Yuta could be on the same level of Gojo, which is the most funniest thing because it kind of just says that, dude, someone can literally be everything and they're still not you. And that's the most craziest thing about this dude's life. And I think that that statement that he says about people being on his level is one of the most interesting things that a powerful dude has said. Because most times than not, we always think it's attributed to like power. But realistically with Gojo, I think it's more towards a guy who just wants people to be around him. He's lonely. He's tired of being at the top. And when a certain person in Modelo references this, we understand that it's lonely at the top and at that level of power that you're just looking for anybody to just be around you and kind of be competent without also losing those people. Because if they're really like weak, then they're going to lose their lives. So ultimately, that statement that he says is a sad one because dude is just really lonely and he wants to find people to be around him. But also at the same time, we interpret it as this sort of statement of power, which is true. It's about status and power. But for him, it's deeper than that. And I find that to be really cool.